friends. This here is David Bose. Today is December 2nd, 2015, and it's wonderful to see everybody today. Well, friends, I think I'm going to do a series. Sometimes I say this and I get sidetracked off on different subjects and so forth, but I really believe that the video I'm going to do today is going to have quite a few videos in a series to explain all of this. I think it's the most important. Well, it's part of the knowledge that we've got to understand as Christians today. We've got to understand where we came from. What is the truth? What's the Bible? What is the church? Why has there been 2,000 years since Christ? And what's been going on? What's the truth? We talked about how the Bible is symbolic. Paul talks about the Bible being a letter of the law or the letter of the word, but only the spiritual intent, the meaning can save you. And we've talked about how only through the Holy Spirit can we learn wisdom, not through words in a book. Anyone can read the Bible and go so far afield from the truth that they are really heretics. They are really children of darkness rather than children of light. Just because they believe in the Bible doesn't make them true. And so, friends, we have to distinguish between what is good and what is bad in our own heart, from our own compassion and love within us. We have to use our own mind to know the truth. We cannot go and sit at the feet of others who spew traditional garbage to us we know that there has been something hidden from us for 2,000 years, friends. We know this. If you don't know this, you need to wake up. There's something going on to this very day. For 2,000 years, we have been lied to. Why did the Catholics destroy all the books at the Alexandrian Library? Why is it we do not know our history? If you have done any research into history, go back into the Middle Ages, friends, and try to understand what was going on. Have you ever seen these ancient romance, the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, Prince Percival, and all of this story? There's books on this. The Antichrist in a Cup of Tea. Ron Brown has written some books on this Holy Grail. All of it shrouded in mystery, friends. What's going on? Who are the Freemasons? Who are the Templars? Who are the Knights Templars? Why is the Knight Templar symbol stamped on the original books from Charles Taze Russell, who started Jehovah's Witnesses? Why did he admit in a speech that he was a 33-degree Mason? Why is the church, the Christian Science Church, the book Mary Baker Eddy wrote, A Christian Science, why is it stamped with the Freemason symbol on the front? And many of the books of Charles Taze Russell, early Jehovah's Witness books, had the phoenix bird, and the ancient symbol was stamped on the Egyptian pyramids. Why was Charles Taze Russell so fascinated with pyramidology? Why is he buried under a pyramid in a Freemason Masonic graveyard in Pennsylvania, the headquarters of Freemasonry? Why is the Mormon Church? Why were they all originally Freemasons? Why was Joseph Smith made a Freemason of the 33 degree before he died? Why did he holler out the Freemason code when you're in distress just before he died? Who killed Joseph Smith? Was it another branch of Freemasons that were afraid he was going to reveal some truths? Friends, did you know, a lot of you believe that groups like Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, and Mormons and stuff just spring up spontaneously by themselves. These things just happen. We're always told about something that happens, and it's just, oh, well, this happened and that happened, and we just accept it hook, line, and sinker. But here's a man, Charles Taze Russell, that, was really nobody, supposedly, decided to start a little Bible study group, and within a few years was able to purchase land across the street from the UN building in New York City, in Brooklyn. You go over the Brooklyn Bridge, you see the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. That land was sold recently for billions of dollars, friends. It is not bought and sold, that kind of land. It is assigned. It is assigned by the elite bankers who have agendas. They created Jehovah's Witnesses, Christian Science. They made these new modern religions. These individual elite bankers go all the way back to the Templars. And who are the Templars? We've got to know what our history is, why they're here, what has been this big fight, why all the deception, the secrecy. Who are they? Why are they building cities all over the world and in secret and financing world wars? Why are they about to bring us all to oblivion in the next world war coming upon us very soon? Well, friends, this is what this video is going to be about. Tracing who they are, what's going on. We've got to go all the way back to the Garden of Eden to understand it. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, friends. Let's start here, because we've got to start somewhere, okay? So let's start in the French Revolution. It was an anti-Christian sentiment, and it sprang up out of nowhere. A fort once used as a prison was brought down with riots, and then they built a pyramid. It was erected in the place of this old fort. Funding wore out before its completion. And after the church was brought down, Louis the 18th, known as a Freemason, he was placed in charge after years of being in exile. He came along and put this obelisk from Egypt and brought it to France. When his son Charles X took over, he had a painting created which appears to have played a part in the blueprint for the layout of Paris, including the Louvre pyramid that wasn't constructed until many years later, 150 years later. Their original construction plans somehow had lived on over a century. The French Revolution and the American Revolution have ties with Freemasonry. Several American Freemasons, including Benjamin Franklin, he was known, friends, to have attended Masonic events in France. Many of the founding fathers were known as Masons and built the Declaration of Independence around Masonic ideology. Where did it all begin, friends? Why? The first attacks on Christianity were, in fact, by the Catholic Church. In the 12th century, the Cathars deemed themselves normal, good Christians. They were called the perfect. And they got this, after they were baptized, they went through a certain initiation process. They were called perfect. To this day, we use this word, the perfect, the prefect, those in a position of knowledge. They believed in a divine being of good, or a pseudo-divine being of evil. They believed in heaven, but not necessarily in hell. They believed that earth was hell. And if you didn't live righteously, you'd spend continuous lifetimes. They believed in reincarnation. You'd come back to the earth. They battled Roman Catholic beliefs and eventually started getting massacred by the millions, until at some point not one of them remained, supposedly. They didn't have any fear of the afterlife. They were more than happy to be executed. They were pacifists. They would not raise up a weapon. They Some of the witnesses of the Cathars being burned at the stake would say that they would throw themselves on the fire. They showed no signs of fear, but they wouldn't back down from what they believed. They didn't discriminate against other races or religions, because we were all, according to them, trapped in the same hell called earth. It took the Catholic Church 35 years, but they eventually destroyed every last Cathar as we know it, supposedly, although at that point they went underground. They often referred to them as Mantians or other names. These were other Gnostic Christian organizations and beliefs. Actually, there were no churches. They were simply communal orders, those who handed on these ancient truths. Both sides viewed the war as another chapter in an ancient war that had been going on for a long time. This has been going on with the Sumerians. There's stories about this with all the ancient Greek, writings in Rome. But Catharism, the Cathars, they were all vegetarians. They were pacifists. And they were a lot like the Bogomiles. They had the same. At the same period of time, there was a group called the Bogomiles. They had different names, but they were all basically esoteric believers. Many look at certain religions that pop up overnight, and they wonder, where did they come from? So back in those days, when they saw these Cathars, they labeled them as Manichaeans, even though they were not Manichaeans. But people get labeled. The Cathars believed they were the true Christians. And they were going to spread the true gospel of Christ that many had misinterpreted. Well, the Catholic Church had risen to power back in the 4th century. They made their own interpretations of Christianity. And they would kill anyone with a sword. They would literally murder you if you didn't agree with them. In the 11th century, the Cathars and the Bogomiles set out to correct the interpretations of the message of Jesus, and they were all killed off systematically by the Roman Catholic Church. The Cathars believed they were the true descendants of the apostles and the esoteric teachings of Jesus. So that's why they were killed. And this war went on for centuries. It was a battle, friends. It was a battle, and you want to know why? And you want to know what it's all about? It's about the truth. It's about power, because truth is power, knowledge is power. And there are certain individuals that want to control your mind and destroy you. And they don't want you to have knowledge, because if you did, they couldn't rule over you. Now, who do you suppose is the good guys and who are the bad guys in this situation? The pacifists or those who were doing all the murdering? Their belief at that time, since the Pope was deemed as the greatest man on earth, and he was, and of course the Cathars believed he was the ruler placed in place by the evil God, Jehovah. They deemed the entire Old Testament a document written by Jehovah, of God who is ignorant, the ego, the flesh. It also appears that many of the Cathars had rituals, and they were rituals that were very Christian. Many of the same rituals that Catholics originally had, but discontinued. Because the Catholics had modified many of their beliefs. A lot of the times they modified and changed their beliefs and rituals because they didn't want to look like they were, Catholics. They had to have a distinction. Or they didn't want to, seem like they were also Gnostics. They began a separation from the true followers of Christ and separated themselves and made more mystery around everything until they became, until it just became a ritual ceremony and meant nothing, and they had no knowledge of what they were doing.